Man of many talents.
Go ahead. I can do that.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining me here for Conversations with Taz. And tonight is Freeform Friday, and just a quick shout out to the family of LeBron James as his oldest son, Bronny James, who, if you were not aware, did suffer cardiac arrest earlier this month. But as you can see, he is home and recovering well and surrounded by family. Now let's jump right into it with the most interesting week ending recap I've seen so far.
Hey guys, it's Friday and I am back after a few days away from, well, just media in general. Going through the conservative news and getting caught up. I wanted to come out here and go ahead and recap this week for you while it's also pretty fresh in my mind. So, let me see if I got this right. The Second American Civil War got off to a rocky start in Alabama this week when an elite unit of MAGA's Rapid Response Force, the Kid Rock Raiders, boarded their assault party barge, the MSS Cracker, and invaded the Montgomery Riverfront. Now, the fighting there was as brief as it was intense, as the first Go on White Boy Fuck Around and Find Out Battalion Bravo Company, commanded by Captain Damian Pickett, ended the assault quickly with no casualties reported on either side. Now, that is due largely to the credit of Lieutenant Reggie Gray and his rapid deployment of the new, non-lethal, but highly effective BYU THWAFC, or Bust You Upside the Head with a Folding Chair weapons platform, which stopped the Raiders cold in their flip-flops. In other Civil War Redux news, elite MAGA sniper Craig Robertson, with over 100 confirmed Krispy Kreme kills, who threatened to dust the sugary glaze off his M24 and take on the president. He himself was unceremoniously retired by the FBI during the execution of a search warrant at his Utah home this week, prompting MAGA leaders to call for the Waffle House to fly their flags at half-staff. Criminal defendant Donald Trump threatened, everyone, prosecutors, judges, witnesses, jurors, by saying, if you go after me, I am coming after you, prompting prosecutors to request the court issue a protective order. Last Friday, Trump this week saying that if a protective order is granted, it would be a violation of his First Amendment rights, because how else is he supposed to tell the Proud Boys and the Patriot Front who to target if he is unable to post the names and addresses of witnesses testifying against him online? In other news across the U.S., Fox News revealed that education is un-American and a bachelor's degree is treason. Republican power broker Mitch Blue Screen of Death McConnell was booed by his constituents in Kentucky, and Republicans in Ohio were shocked when voters overwhelmingly rejected a major part of their plan to ultimately allow old rich white Nazis to imprison women for making their own medical decisions about their bodies. But not to worry about any of this, because in our feel-good story of the week, Ron Pick My Nose and Shake Your Hand DeSantis had his wife Casey in tears on the campaign trail as she lovingly recalled the one day in their marriage that he actually had to go pick up the kids from school himself, saying, quote, "There I was in the hospital, dying of cancer, too weak to even paint on my own eyebrows, when the phone rang and the nurse answered." It was Ron on the other end of the line, just wanting to make sure there was no way I was going to be able to get the kids that day. All I could muster in response was a faint whisper telling him that I loved him and that I didn't have very long to live, to which he replied using those words that every woman ultimately wants to hear from her husband. Fine, fuck it, I'll take care of it since you're too busy today, or whatever. We also learned this week that Justice Clarence Thomas received many gifts from multiple benefactors since his appointment to the Supreme Court in 1991, including 38 destination vacations, 34 flights on private jets or helicopters, a dozen VIP suite passes to sporting events, and multiple stays at resorts in Florida and Jamaica, and a standing invitation at a very exclusive golf club. Thank God our conservative Supreme Court justices are able to accept bribes from a broad cross-section of the 1% and not just one or two people. Hashtag fair and impartial. And last but certainly not least, in a stunning revelation by Fox News that will invariably lead to all charges against him being dismissed, we learned that former President Donald Trump, in fact, did not betray his country by organizing a criminal conspiracy to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Donald Trump, they said, was simply following bad legal advice given to him by his attorneys, didn't know what he was doing, and as a result, could not be held accountable for his efforts to subvert the Constitution and destroy the United States of America. So, that pretty much where we're at.
That that is the best wrap up of the week I have heard all week. From there, let's jump right into it. Joe Rogan is Joe Roganing yet again. I'm waiting for Joe Rogan to get the Alex Jones treatment. I'm waiting for people to come together and sue the shit out of him. But take a look.
During an interview on Joe Rogan's podcast this week, comedian Jim Gaffigan was put in a position that I don't know that Gaffigan was expecting to be put in when Rogan began going on a rant about the Capitol riot and how he says that it is a fact that there were federal agents implanted in the crowd that got people all riled up to storm the Capitol. Now, I'm going to read Rogan's exact quote in just a moment, where he, by the way, invokes one man who actually recently sued Fox News for claiming he was a federal plant at the Capitol riot. So, not a smart decision by Rogan to bring up this guy possibly being a plant, because he's already sued people for making that statement. But let's start right off the bat, before I even read his quote, getting it out there in the open that no, it is not a fact that there were federal agents implanted in the audience to get people riled up to storm the Capitol. There is literally no evidence whatsoever on God's green earth to suggest that. Rogan, when he said it's a fact, lied to his entire massive, largest podcast in the country audience. That is a lie that he told them. Here is what he said. I don't know, but I do know that I think that every other person who was involved in January 6th, who was involved in coordinating a break-in into the Capitol and then instigating people, they were all arrested. This guy wasn't. Not only that, but they were defending him in the New York Times, the Washington Post, all these things, saying Fox News has unjustly accused him of instigating when he clearly instigated. He did it on camera. I don't know if he was a Fed. I know a lot of people think he was a Fed. Trump was very open about his disdain for the intelligence agencies. Throughout history, people of unchecked power and unchecked influence have enemies, and Trump was their enemy. He also added, the January 6th thing is bad, but also the intelligence agencies were involved in provoking people into the Capitol building. That's a fact. Again, no, it's not. Nothing that Joe Rogan said there is a fact at all. Like, this is all make-believe superstition BS being pushed by Joe Rogan. For what? Like, to what end? That's what I want to know. Like, why are you even bringing up these idiotic conspiracy theories? That's what makes no sense. And why are you bringing it up in a conversation with Jim Gaffigan, of all people? You know, if you were talking to some idiot right-winger, would totally make sense. But to his credit, Jim Gaffigan pushed back and knocked Joe Rogan down a few. He said, Jim Gaffigan said, more suspicious.
Now, keep in mind that Joe Rogan decided to say this in light of current lawsuits, but also during the week that men from the Seattle area Patriot Front are now suing because they were uncovered, because you know they love to wear masks and cover their faces now, but they couldn't do through COVID, and they're being ostracized by their friends and family, and they've lost their jobs. You know, the same Patriot Front, 3%ers, Proud Boys that everybody keeps saying are the feds, but when you remove the mask, they're just Jim, Bob, and Bubba. He would be ashamed of himself if he didn't keep himself in an echo chamber. And you can always tell the people that are in echo chambers because all they hear about are the talking points. They don't hear about these lawsuits. They don't hear about the verdicts from these lawsuits. They don't watch the trials. They don't watch the hearings. They wait for Breitbart, OAN, Newsmax, all of these things to tell them what to think. That's why they all say the same thing over and over again. Because there are people who don't even believe that the voting booth companies have already sued Fox. There are people who don't know that that happened and don't believe that it's ever going to happen. They don't know that there are additional lawsuits on the pipeline. But that's not the only alabaster podcaster out here sticking their foot firmly down their throat this week. Of course not. Of course not. Next up, we have Matt Walsh.
And so there are really two parts of the story. The first is the story itself, which is the demographic trend, where whites are trending towards extinction in the United States.
Okay.
That's the way it's headed.
And
then the other part of the story is the veil of silence around this issue.
What are you talking about?
The wall that is erected around it.
Because no
I
one
know you're
cares.
going to say, well, you just read a story about it, so there's not a silence. Yeah, they can report on it. So you report and you celebrate diversity, and then you just move on. We don't talk about it. We don't think much about it, and that's it.
Because we're all equal. So
You
who
aren't allowed
cares?
to talk much about it. You certainly can't be concerned about it.
Why would you be
You're not allowed
concerned
to
about
express
it?
any concern.
Unless you're a white
something.
supremacist.
To hear that whites are on their way to minority status and the white population is declining.
Oh, are minorities not
The worst
treated
thing you can
well
possibly do
in
is-
America?
To talk about it at all is already a problem, but to suggest that there's any reason at all to be concerned about that, or to be anything less than thrilled by that development,
It's racist.
is incredibly racist.
Yes.
We're told.
Let's take a stroll back down memory lane for a moment. You know, when they first started getting riled up by their great replacement theory, it was when old Tuck Carlson still had his show on Fox, and he was bringing it up. Isn't it amazing that they bring it up and say nobody's bringing it up? They talk about it and say nobody's talking about it. But here's the thing. If you want to fight with somebody, fight with your cohorts that keeps tackling the foundation of racism. Fight with your ancestors who said that you could enhance everything else but only take away from whiteness. They made the rules. They were the creators of one drop. They were the creators of blood quantum. They're the ones that said, once you mix white with something, it's no longer white. That's why now you see people clamoring on social media going, well, if white privilege was the thing, biracial people would be clinging to the white side of them, as if biracial doesn't include intraracial. Because you can have a Japanese person get with a black person and they have a baby, intraracial, still biracial. And why do you think in recent years they've put out regarding census information and what you can put down on official document that if you're a part of the Asian community, you can now identify as white? Forgetting that Afro-Asians exist. And that's why in their fight to dismantle and just disintegrate affirmative action, they utilize the model myth of the model minority. And who did they make the face of it? Because they're terrified. They want to keep saying that racism no longer exists and everybody is on equal standing. If everybody is on equal standing, there's no racism, there's no need for all this legislation. What you scared for? What you're scared for? And see, their projection is, once again, I know what I have in my mind that I want to do to you, but the law says I really can't. So if the roles are reversed, you have to have the same mindset. I know everybody has met someone that this person may have done something in their life or had this experience, and they're like, oh, everybody does it. No, everybody doesn't. I've had this argument even with family members of my own, where they just figured everybody in their 20s did something, and I'm sitting there looking like, y'all did that? That was a prerequisite to get through our 20s? because I didn't get that memo. I didn't do none of that. Yeah, you did. You went, no. It's that because I do it, I think it, you must do it, you must think it. No. They preach individualism, but they teach sheepalism. Okay. Let's throw a Am I the Asshole in here. I have no idea what this one is. It was sent in. I did not take a look at it beforehand. Let's jump into it.
My wife bought a house without telling me. I snooped and found more stuff. I think my marriage might be over. I really am lost on what to do now. We've been married for 5 years. I'm 33, she's 25, and she's always been a private loner type, but this is too much in my opinion. I have a gym membership I was trying to get canceled and was looking for bank statements in our home office area, and I found a deed to a house and debt consolidation information, and eventually a deed to a house that was bought in 2020 in my wife's home state, 8 hours away from where we live now. I saw red and thought she was cheating or had another lover and confronted her. She was surprised but didn't act like she did anything wrong because she used her money. My wife worked with other developers on a software product that was eventually bought for a decent sum, and when her parents passed away, she received all of their assets as their only child. So she technically does not need work for the rest of her life, she just chooses to. She told me that she brought it up years ago that she wanted to have her own place that can be used for vacations or rental property, but that in the case of a divorce, she wants a place that's hers as our prenup states that the house will go to me. Yes, I do remember this conversation, but she never told me she had bought the place or had actually done it, so I find that pretty fishy. It sounds like you have listening problems. The conversation happened, buddy. After the conversation, I started snooping while she was at work the next day because I couldn't sleep. When we met, she was upfront about not wanting kids. I asked a little bit before I proposed, and she said she for sure did not want them. I told her that I did, and she said that she would be willing to adopt a child above the age of 2, but not willing to have it herself. Didn't make sense to me, but adoption is A-okay in my book. We started the adoption process in October and are still being verified and getting our backgrounds checked. But while looking through her computers, I saw she had reached out about getting her tubes tied and contacted her health insurance company about coverage and specific doctors in the network. So I know she is pretty serious and didn't look it up on a whim. I went back and asked her about it, and she said she always told me that she doesn't want kids and she isn't hiding anything, and told me it is only common sense to prevent pregnancy before she gets stuck with one. I called her out on her word usage and said I'm not sure she would be a good mother. She snapped on me and called me an unrealistic fool. She still made us our breakfast and packed my lunch for my night shift, but I can tell from how she packed it, she's still mad. She usually makes cute bento-style lunchboxes for me every day, and today was just leftover meat and fresh sides, not fresh everything. I told her if she had something to say to me, she should say it, but that I'm not okay with her trying to make life-altering decisions without even talking to me. She was taking a bath and just pulled the curtain and ignored me. I can't talk to any of my buddies about this because they've already said I should have left her years ago, but the reasoning on why is something I don't fully agree with, and they won't offer me real advice. She feels like I'm overstepping and doesn't listen when she talks, something we've had a problem with since we started dating, and I feel like she's too independent. I want to make things work, and I'm just really stuck here on which one of us is not being understanding enough or how to get past this.
He knows who's not being understanding, and I bet you the reason why his friend told him to leave her is because she's financially stable, she can't be baby trapped, and he can't control her. She's a loner. She's independent. You pursued her. You married her. And you thought that you could change her. She's not making life-altering decisions without talking to you. She didn't use joint money. She didn't take anything from you. You are just now seeing that she said what she meant what she said, and you don't own her. You're not going to have a barefoot and pregnant wife chilling in the kitchen all the time. It's not going to happen. She told you that. And you set up the prenup that she would be eternally beholden to you. You set it up in a way that if things don't work out, this woman is homeless. So if she does give birth to children, she does bond with children. She has to suck it up and take whatever you're giving. And if you don't like that she has more money than you, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Because trust me, I've dealt with men like that start off so proud. You're the trophy. Oh yeah, she got her own business. She does this. She's so smart. And then as their friends start to like you, their family starts to like you, and respect starts to set in, and they realize, hold up, you still doing the stuff you was doing when you was single? You can still afford that? Mm-hmm. Oh, you still going on vacation with your girls? Mm-hmm. Oh, so you're not reliant on me? Mm-mm. And you can make friends on your own? Mm-hmm. This is why I never understand, especially when I see it on social media. And they say it with their whole chest. When you have staunch, tyrannical Christian conservatives, excuse me, that are like, why won't a liberal date me? Why would you want that? Just like the men who get in these relationships with the good girls, no body count, no nothing, but they want a freak in the sheets. Why? And you mad because y'all agreed on having 3 kids, and after those 3 kids pop out of her body, she don't want to do the hokey pokey with you under the sheets anymore. You said you wanted a good, pure girl. Pure girls are brought up to believe that coitus is only for procreation. They have no desire for that. They have the desire to forever try to take the moral high ground over everybody else. You want that sloppy toppy gawk 3000 with the twist and the mist. You're not getting that. You're not getting that at all. You want her to put on some sexy lingerie, some lingeries. She's not doing that. She's not doing that because she's heard you, her father, her mother, her brothers, her sisters, everybody, the pastor of the church that's supposed to be the pinnacle of the community, say that that's nasty, that's wrong, that's disrespectful. You don't want to bring dishonor onto the family. See, everything about conservatism is about denying yourself what you really want, what really brings you pleasure. And that's why you're so pissed off at everybody else living, laughing, loving, and living their best life. Because you sit back there like, I wish I could, shoulda, coulda, woulda. You still can. Get out of everybody else's business and get your house together. Your house is the miserable. You the one so worried about what LGBTQI is doing because you a little LGBTQI. You so worried about this teacher having an OnlyFans or this teacher posting a bikini pic from the beach. And you think little John in kindergarten is up on Instagram looking at her pictures talking about it's inappropriate and trying to get her fired from her job because you want to put on that bikini and you want to be with that teacher that's in the bikini. But you got your wife covered from here to her toes. You mad because the only thing your wife or your husband can do is missionary barely for 2.2 minutes. If you wanted the porn star lifestyle, you should have went and got you a porn star. Experience makes you better, baby. Because judgment comes from what you're lacking in your own life. Misery loves company. And misery with tyrannical evangelicals, woo, baby, they always trying to have a tea party. Their misery is always trying to invite somebody over. Now from there, here's a little bit of FYI that I think everybody should pay close attention to, especially in these days with the craziness that's afoot.
This is things you should know based on what I have gathered as an attorney. No, I will not elaborate, meaning I don't care what you do with this, but it's not legal advice. I'm not on a billable hour, but God, I wish I was. As always, shut the hell up. Number 2, cops are legally allowed to lie to you. On purpose, yes, you, all of you, and they do all the time about anything. Shut the hell up. For some people suck. They're gonna be your friends. They're gonna be your partners. They're gonna be your bosses. They're gonna be your homies. But they would never, yes, they would. They would and they will. They would and they will. Money does not mean smart or savvy or clever. Trust. Trust me on that. The millionaires that are just regular fucking people in fucking gated communities are the dumbest fucking morons you'll ever meet. Okay? Businessman, savvy, honey, no luck, skin color. It's a combo. It's a deadly one. Stop taking advice from them or trusting them, but mostly taking advice from them or doing what they fucking say. Fuck. Anyone can file a lawsuit. Anyone. You, me, your mom. You can put the C word that rhymes with bunt on a court document, sign your name, file it. That's a complaint, okay? Huge complaint. Period. Speak your truth. Your texts will be read in court. I repeat, your texts will be read in court. Every emoji, every word. Doesn't matter if it's slang. They'll ask you to explain it. Doesn't matter if it's an acronym. They'll ask you to tell you what it's abbreviated for, okay? They'll ask. You'll have to explain. And because of that, call each other for the bad shit and text each other for the important shit, okay? You know what bad shit I'm probably implying, I'm referring to. Give it a phone call, give it a ring-a-ding, okay? But when it's important, as in like, oh, I don't know, like talking about a contract, talking about events that you're gonna want to prove up later, maybe text it, maybe email. Okay? Next is bring a friend. Because you guys seem to always want to call up your fucking enemies and the people that you definitely want a record about your conversations with, yeah, bring a fucking friend then. If you're not going to text them, okay? If you're going to meet up, you're going to have a phone call, bring a fucking friend. Okay? I to the witness. Thank you. Last is the singular second moment that you step a single toe outside of your front door, you have an audience. You are in public, on the stage, you are putting on a show. You have an audience, even if you don't think so. Trust me, you do. We find them. Thank you.
That last one I tell people all the time. And I tell people, think about celebrities. Because for some reason, we give politicians more privacy than we give celebrities. But you know how there's always a gossip columnist, a gossip blog, and everything else just picking away at everything that they do. If they post a picture, they're like, oh, this is what this means. And the person could have just said, you know what? I like this lighting, or I look cute today, or I like this backdrop. Means nothing. And they're not even really posting it for the public, because I do things a lot. I post it just to chronicle it in case a memory gets wiped out or I lose something. You have to realize you have a public as well. And you have a public that doesn't have anyone to correct them. They have more people that will join in on the gossip and the bullshittery than anything else. Because you could be doing something as innocent as ordering something for delivery, and you go get your packages, and trust and believe someone in your audience has decided you're selling illicit substances, you got an OnlyFans, you're having an affair, something. It'll be something crazy. And if you think I'm joking, I know from time to time I still tell you about that old lady down in Frankfurt. I remember she had one neighbor. She decided this man was gay, living with his mama, having people in and out the house, and that's how he was making his money. Then he had a yard sale. She walks up and proclaims him to be the bestest friend she had, the bestest one in the neighborhood. Man was not gay. Man did not live with his mother, owned the house outright. And worked for an insurance company that was local. She also decided that there was a father 2 blocks over that was abusive to his kids. Why? Because one time she heard teenagers doing what teenagers do, complaining about their parents. Not saying anybody put hands on them. Just, I can't believe I'm on punishment. I don't think I should be on punishment. Like we all have done as teenagers. So keep that in mind, that you do have an audience. And should you ever get into a situation where you have to pull somebody in as an eyewitness, I'm telling you from experience, pay attention to who your audience is and who should come and speak on your behalf. If somebody is too eager to speak on your behalf, they don't have your best interest at heart. They have already made up a story in their mind and they will pull out evidence to back everything up. And if they're convincing enough, you know, when you go looking for something, that's exactly what you're going to see. So a simple text of, hey, what you doing today? They'll be like, well, you know what? When they say that, this what this means. And the person be like, oh yeah, you're right. When they say that to me. Now, evidently, for some godforsaken reason, there now has to be religious liberty training for a certain airline. Y'all take a look.
A federal judge appointed by Trump, Brantley Starr, has ordered lawyers for Southwest Airlines undergo religious liberty training by Alliance Defending Freedom, a right-wing anti-abortion group. Starr's ruling is related to a case by Charlene Carter, a Southwest flight attendant, against the company. According to Southwest, Carter was terminated in 2017 for a 2-year grossly offensive and terrible campaign to personally torment a colleague. The company says Carter sent dozens upon dozens of messages to Stone's Facebook Messenger. The messages ranged from insults and name-calling to overtly grotesque imagery designed to inflict severe emotional distress. Some messages are too graphic, but here is a sample. Carter does not deny sending these messages, but claims, among other things, that her termination constituted illegal discrimination for her religious beliefs and practices. Carter says that she had a right to share her religious views with Stone while off duty. Southwest says Carter's termination had nothing to do with her religious beliefs. Further, the company argued the right to share any material related to abortion without restriction, no matter how graphic or offensive, is not mandated by her stated religious belief. Southwest urged Starr to dismiss Carter's case as a matter of law. Starr declined to do so, and the case went to trial in 2022. A Texas jury ruled in the favor of Carter. The training ordered by Starr stems not from monetary damages, but from further remedial measures Starr included in a December 5th, 2022 order. Southwest did what was required in the order, but along with saying it lost the case, its message to flight attendants said it does not discriminate based on religious views. Carter sought sanctions because she thinks that Southwest should have said it may not discriminate. This appears to be a semantic argument. Starr's order did not require Southwest to use specific language in their email to flight attendants, but Starr concluded that Southwest's conduct was egregious. He compares Southwest's use of does not to Adam lying to God. Starr further concludes that Southwest's speech and actions toward employees demonstrate a chronic failure to understand the role of federal protections for religious freedom. That is why Starr orders training by the Alliance Defending Freedom for Southwest attorneys. The Alliance Defending Freedom has been identified as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, and the Human Rights Campaign calls them the nation's largest anti-LGBT legal advocacy group. This is Popular Information, a newsletter that holds the powerful accountable. Find the full report on popular.info and follow along here for more accountability journalism.
This is yet another example that people just slap a label on themselves. They just slap a label on themselves. They don't know what they're actually believing. They don't know what their religion denotes. Because if a person who practiced a completely different religion or no religion at all decided that on their off time, they were going to bombard her with these things, she would have lost her shit and sued everybody and been justified it. But just like we heard live and in living color on this podcast the other day, they always say they don't want anything thrown in their face, shoved down their throat. It's too much. But who's really shoving anything down anyone's throat? Who is always forcing their beliefs on everyone else? Because I don't remember Muslims going door to door asking us if we heard the good day, if we heard the good word. I don't recall Buddhists approaching people in Target and proselytizing to them. I don't recall atheists protesting outside of funerals of people who have religious beliefs that they don't hold. Isn't it funny, the people who say that they don't want things shoved in their face and they don't want to see it everywhere go out of their way to see everything everywhere and make sure that you see and hear them, but then claim that there's a war on Christianity. No, people are avoiding Christianity. And because so many people fake it, and they believe that in the United States, putting on the cloak of the title of super saint Christian is going to get them ahead. This is why so many of them believe that Trump is the Messiah. How are you a Christian that actually studies the Bible and believe that Trump... We're not even going to get into not putting other gods before me and all of that stuff. And that's why they don't see a problem with adultery in their own home. They don't see a problem with having 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 7 wives. They don't have a problem with premarital sex for themselves. They just want that moral superiority over you. And they believe that that will give them anything. They're trying to turn the United States into what they proclaim their ancestors fled from as pilgrims. Y'all know the stories they told everybody in primary school. That they needed to flee for religious freedom. We should have religious freedom, religious freedom, religious freedom. This is why I keep telling y'all, if you don't learn history, you're going to be in a perpetual Groundhog Day. So once they completely take away religious freedom and instill some type of official aristocracy here in the United States, because that's really what they're moving towards. If you're supporting Trump, you're moving towards having an official aristocracy in place and no longer a democracy. Where are people going to go? Who are the colonizers going to move off their land for the sake of preserving their freedom or establishing new freedoms? Their God-given rights that only seem to apply to them. Antarctica? Now, I know we touched on it a little bit yesterday, but we're going to touch on it a little bit more. I found a more thorough recap of the melee in Montgomery.
The real reason that you're not upset is because you're a fucking racist and you're excited to see stuff like this.
Do me a favor, shut the fuck up. I know a lot of y'all been wanting me to talk about Montgomery, so let's talk about Montgomery. I'm gonna make an entire series of videos entitled How These People Lie to You, because that's what it has to be, because I'm confident we did not watch the same video.
How many times have we seen urban culture amoebas jumping someone, though, while other urban culture amoeba onlookers sit around and do absolutely nothing? They don't break it up or stop it. They don't pull people apart. They actually love it, and they egg it on sometimes. A lot of times they actually join in. But when two non-melanated men are jumping a melanated person, suddenly this is a huge problem. We all gotta jump in, right?
Urban culture amoeba is hilarious, considering you literally look like the nuclear fallout of what would happen if MGK and Abraham Lincoln took a shit, then ate that shit, then combined the shit, then put a beard on that shit, then gave it a fucking platform. I mean, you literally said...
And they egg it on sometimes. A lot of times they actually join in.
On a video in which the context is that the folks started a fight, and then the people you're talking about joined in.
What a show of unity, huh? What a show of strength. This is real black power, baby. Men knocking out women, sucker punching women, dragging women around a dock, beating women, hitting women with chairs, etc.
Hot take, don't care. But now let's analyze the claim. The first time we see a woman get harmed at all is when this woman is dragged by the captain who just got done being jumped. I shall henceforth refer to this girl as Miss Kicks-a-Lot, considering this is the very woman who moments earlier just joined in on the jumping and kicked the captain. Let's move on to the next incident. We see Brody with the salmon shorts tackle this guy. After this occurs, two things happen. This woman who was initially trying to help the captain jumps off the boat, and we again see Miss Kicks-a-Lot try to intervene. She is then Falcon punched by this woman. After Miss Kicks-a-Lot gets kablooied, the woman who was trying to help initially runs over. She then, in an effort to become Batman, tries to double punch this woman to get her off of Miss Kicks-a-Lot. She is then dragged and kablooied by that same woman. This other woman in white then jumps in to try to save Bruce Wayne. She is then kablooied by a woman and this person who I assume is a man, who then throws her into the water. This is the only instance, besides the chair obviously, in which a man is intentionally hitting a woman from what I can tell. Me, while editing this video, I am in fact Ganoofi of the century because this is a woman. We can actually see her more clearly in the footage moments before and after chair impact. But remember guys, as amoebas, we just love condoning men hitting women apparently. I apologize sincerely, she's just a queen with short hair. Oh wait, I was lying. Because after this incident with Batman, Miss Kicks-a-Lot runs in and runs into this woman in red. The woman in red then tries to reach for Miss Kicks-a-Lot, only for her to be fucking armbarred by this grown-ass man. He miscalculated the trajectory and was kablooied shortly thereafter. Do you think Buddy Nem, who's calling us amoebas for condoning men hitting on women, ever included the part where the folk also beat on women? Give yourself 20 points if you said fuck no. I noticed you also said this.
Hitting dudes who aren't looking, that you have outnumbered 10 to 1 because of race. And look at all the brain dead amoebas. Proud of this shit like this is evolution on social media.
First of all, look at me, the fucking amoeba, when you're talking. Stop reading off your script. Secondly, you said I did watch the entire video. So outnumbered 7 to 1, did you forget that this interaction started with at minimum 3 men jumping 1 security guard, and becoming 4 people if you count Miss Kicks-a-Lot? Third of all, peep how you use this screenshot to make it look like, oh my god, look how poor and helpless they are. Do you know what happened in the video right before you took that screenshot? That looks to me like a fighting stance there, brother. But again, they misjudged the trajectory and got kablooied. This actually brings us to our next instance of a woman getting struck, because yet again, Miss Kicks-a-Lot decided to run into some shit that she had nothing to do with. And it looks like while he was trying to punch one of the 2 guys who pulled up thinking they were gonna do something, he accidentally struck Miss Kicks-a-Lot, who included almost no context and put everything in a script to make it sound nice, and talked an awful lot about black on black crime. But when we dig in a little further, it gets very questionable for you. Let's get to the next instance of a woman being hurt, which y'all are so riled up about, that happens to be the chair. Funnily enough, this whole interaction actually escalated because the person on the left shoved the person on the right who was actually backing up, and then Bucko out of nowhere decides to try to punch a dude. Things escalate, and despite this guy deciding to be a genius and throw a wild ass right hook into a situation that didn't have anything to do with him, the woman next to him in red gets involved anyway. She then gets attacked by these 2 women and falls to the ground, to which Unk pops out of nowhere with the flying chair of death. But funnily enough, we amoebas aren't memeing because a woman was hit with a chair. If you know anything about urban amoeba culture, we're actually memeing because of how out of pocket dude is for hitting her with a chair. In fact, assuming we watch the same video, you can actually hear people when it happens say, Jesus. You can even see both girls, but especially the one on the left, get spooked and walk the fuck off, because Buddy did not have to do that.
And how this all started wasn't originally about race at all. The 2 non-melanated guys were beating up the melanated guy because he moved their fucking boat, not because he was melanated. It had nothing to do with race at all until the real racists actually showed up.
I can make a pretty good prediction on how hard you hit your head based off your takes in this video, but what's even more confusing is the fact that you follow me. Do me a favor, stop. Because according to whatever fucked logic you think you have in your brain, black people were the real racists in this situation because they stepped in to defend a black security guard who was beat for doing his job and telling people to move the boat that could not legally be docked where it was, after those same people try to piece him up and then walk away all hunky-dory like they didn't do nothing. I mean, you even say the same drivel about how old black people always virtue signal about black lives whenever a cop kills them. And every time that happens, we hear nothing but, oh, shoulda complied, he didn't follow rules, and then look what happened. And now here you are virtue signaling in a situation where these white people did not follow rules, and fucking look what happened. Not only did they not follow rules, they actively beat the person who was trying to give the rules to them. Hey, Bucko, put down the pen. Put down the pen. Lift every chair and sweep.
And for everyone saying, oh no, it wasn't based on racism, I got something for you.
TikTok, hold on. You've got to see this. Black folks do not go nowhere. Remember the ones that just effed around and found out at the marina in Alabama, the Alabama brawl? Yeah, that's the family right there. Now, you know they have a mini mart that they own. It's called Vesser's Mini Mart. So we went to Google and we saw the reviews. They just updated the pictures. These people just updated their pictures on their Google reviews. Because, let me just show you. Y'all ready for this? Let me pick myself down to a little guy. But before I do TikTok, this is for the black community. This is for our safety. This is for our security. Do not delete this video because the public needs to know that the people at this company is involved in hate crimes and hateful activity that is against federal law. So do not delete this TikTok. Let me pitch myself down to a little guy. You see it. That is an authentic Klan's mask. And the sad part about this, now we know why they confronted the black employee like that. But the sad part is they own this mini mart and they're doing this, which means they are active members. This is not something he just had around from his grandpa. No, they are active members. This is why he did this. And again, the law need to step in because these are intimidation tactics. They fooled around and found out, and now they mad, so they want to use their racist intimidation tactics to try to pump fear into black community or black people. They're going to fool around and find out. That's why I made this shirt for people like this. And you can get this shirt in the link in my bio. And like I said, these are authentic. You see that patch on there? This ain't something, this ain't just some sheet he threw around his head, which tells us that him and his family are deeply involved in racism, deeply involved in the Klan, deeply involved in white supremacy, deeply involved in systemic hate and racism. So they fooled around and found out, and now this is what they do. This is what they do when they find out that they can't. I can't cuss, but you already know. They fooled around and they effed around and found out.
Fuck around and find out.
What?
Say what?
Say what?
Say
what?
What? Say what?
Yeah, they're permanently closed. Because you have to realize people like that, guess where they establish stores and then want to talk shit and want to put out intimidation tactics like that. Who's spending money there? And these are also the same people who believe that everybody who looks like their reflection feels the same way as them. They're the same people that'll scream, "You'll be sorry when we have another civil war," because they don't realize that they don't actually realize that they lost the first civil war. And see, they think that it's going to be a matter of the right versus the left. First of all, the right has not had popular vote in quite a while. It's going to be the racist versus the non-racist. And then from that, you have to subtract the conscientious observers. You know, the people who throughout history just buried their head in the sand. And these are the same type of people who would believe that members of the military would jump up and help them. Like the guy that fucked around and found out when he decided to arm himself when the FBI were coming to execute an arrest warrant because he was all online, talking big shit, posting pictures of him with all his equipment, talking about who he was going after in the name of Trump. Just like the guy the other year that tried to shoot up the FBI office in Cincinnati. Just like all the people sitting in jail now just recently got out of prison due to their insurrection. But they still have these fantasies. Like little kids. Yeah, that rabbit hole is a deep one. But with all good things, one part of the Bama brawl we have to let go of, because cops have no originality. And I first saw a black woman who happened to be a cop do this, and now the rest of them have joined in. Take a look.
Well, I agree. The joke is over, and we had a good run. I mean, we had almost a calendar week of just creativity unmatched from the black community. We had great videos and memes, and now the police was like, and when we hit y'all with these, okay, now it's all right. Now that y'all in, I don't want to play no more. Y'all terrorized us all kind of ways. This was our fighting. You know what? You got it. The funeral details are here. We're going to come and view the steel and, you know what I'm saying, give our respects. Because it was good, man. I want to know who did the chair. Who did it? Who did the body? Did you make it look like it looked just like he looked when I saw him on the video? Yeah, it looked just as strong as he always did. It was fun, guys. It was fun.
For as much as we in the Black community are told that we don't value education, you have public school systems because of us. We're told that we don't value communities, but you have food pantries, neighborhood watches, and free lunches, and free meals, period, because of us. Nobody will let us have anything. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. There's one thing I want to point out before we call it a night. There are some jurists that are originalists when it comes to the Constitution. And there's another video, it's on my TikTok page, that goes into further detail because there's already a court case that has established that this amendment can do the job. They're stating that Trump should be disqualified from running. And I want you to note, before you start screaming, he's only been indicted. He hasn't been convicted. The Constitution doesn't say you have to be indicted or convicted. But take a look.
Two constitutional scholars from the ultra-conservative Federalist Society say that Donald Trump is ineligible to be president. And the co-founder, co-chairman of the Federalist Society agrees with them. Quote, Trump cannot be president, cannot run for president, cannot become president, cannot hold office unless 2/3 of Congress decides to grant him amnesty for his conduct on January 6th. After a year of researching this, these constitutional originalists not only say secretaries of state in all 50 states cannot put Trump on the ballot, but that if they do, they are breaking the law. Trump is banned from office for life because of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment passed after the Civil War, excluded because he took an oath to protect the Constitution and betrayed that oath. And as academic as this all sounds, CREW, the Committee for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, sued to remove a January 6th insurrectionist from his office in New Mexico, and they won. And they are ready to sue Trump. The remarkable conclusion of the conservative constitutional experts, Trump ineligible to regain the White House, and much more on the Friday Countdown podcast, available now wherever you podcast, and also available now on YouTube.
Isn't history great? I also want to point something out to you all. Now, the rules for this type of litigation vary slightly from state to state, but it only takes one person. It only takes one person. If you feel that someone who is potentially going to be on the ballot or is placed on the ballot is unfit, unqualified, or does not fulfill the constitutional requirements for any office, it takes one singular person to go in and file a case. I'm just putting that information out there for you. And CREW has already begun with their suits for all 50 states to try to ensure that Trump is not on the ballot. See, they all say they love the Constitution. What about the Constitution? The only thing they know about the Constitution is that there's a First and a Second Amendment and a Fifth Amendment. They don't even comprehend what those are. They don't even understand that the amendments were additions to the original Constitution, because I've seen far too many of them claiming that you can't change the Constitution. Well, they changed the Constitution for your Second Amendment that you love so much, John Boy. So, like I always tell y'all, after you hunt, there's always more than one way to skin it. Now, real quick, let's go over this because I keep telling you all about the major insurance companies. A lot of them, the vast majority of them, are still around to this day, and how they really made their collateral, and why I have such a disdain that we still pay so much into insurance companies to get little to nothing back in a lifetime. And also, if you don't have life insurance, get life insurance. And please realize that life insurance is for the living, and get with your local funeral homes and your cemetery should you decide to be buried, because you can make payments on that. Yeah. But let's take a look.
Publicly acknowledges they have insurance out on slaves.
I kind of spoke on insurance policies in the past, but that article.
First, I searched the Book of Faces. This guy is friends with her. This is his homepage. Naturally, here he is. Here's all of his involvement. And I noticed that he is an 8th generation native of Charlotte. If it's 8 generations, I would assume it's around 200 years ago. So I searched this last name and this keyword, you know, just to fact check. This is where my research took a totally different turn. The Hornet's Nest, September 13th, 1849. This is the section. Now let's zoom in. North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company, Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm going to scroll down. The board have also determined to insure the lives of slaves, and this being almost half of the wealth of the people in this state, a large business is reasonably anticipated. This is another notice 2 weeks prior. 11 years later, T.W. Dewey Life Insurance Agency, North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company, resolved number 2, that all slaves insured in the office may be employed in the military service against the late United States, the owner paying 1% extra on the amount insured. 1862 in the Charlotte Democrat. The war tax, William Maxwell Esquire, the collector of the war tax in this county, has furnished us with the following statement showing the amount of the tax in Mecklenburg. That's where that lady is from, county, and different sources from which it is derived. 7,122 slaves, valued at $2,236,031, I believe. So even though I haven't found a lot of information on her, I haven't located his ancestors yet. I did discover that this company publicly acknowledges they have insurance out on slaves, and that it's almost half the wealth of the people in the state of North Carolina. To be continued. To be continued. Publicly acknowledges they have insurance out on slaves.
I kind of spoke on insurance policies in the past, but that article brings up a very important point. Inside this database of resources that I have of over 50 resources surrounding slavery, there are 2 that mention insurance policies. If you like to search by state, this is one of the ones that I recommend. You have the enslaver's name, the county and state where they lived at. You have the enslaved name and the county and state they lived at. You have the policy number, and you have what they were forced to do. Now, the other one I have is what I want to talk about. This is from the California Department of Insurance. They have basically the same information, but they also have who was submitted by, as you can see, Fortune 500 company, New York Life Insurance is right there. Now, when looking through these, you may see these companies, or mainly company, which brings up my point. Some may be hard to find, but there were a lot of Southern companies that got into putting insurance on black bodies. North Carolina Mutual, Baltimore Life Insurance, like I showed Virginia Life Insurance, and they weren't the only ones taking policies out. By 1853, Richmond Fire Association had already written over 1,700 slave policies. And when you look up a lot of these companies now, they kind of just poofed, right? So those newspapers are very clutch. Make sure y'all go through them. And just in case you think, hey, America wouldn't do this.
And that is Walt Way of the Bristol English Project. So if you're not following him, please follow him. He is a genealogist. So get a little extra with history. But one thing I do want to correct, a lot of the insurance companies didn't go poof. They combined. They were absorbed by other companies, just like a lot of the banks went from 2, 3, 4, 10 different banks and came together as a conglomerate. Because did you see how many times New York Life was there? This is why there's so much anger. This is why it's so easy for them to steal from us and appropriate our culture and monetize it. Because remember when it was, oh, so disgusting, slave food. Now all of a sudden the price of greens is sky high, oxtails is sky high. Now it's a delicacy. They're even selling fried bologna sandwiches at restaurants. You know, our bodies were an anomaly. So everybody got to have a big butt and a smile. I guess they like when that girl is poison, huh? They lost a lot of wealth. Hence the fact that they got reparations and why they are fighting against us getting reparations. Because they know the monetary value that created their generational wealth. Now, are there people who blew through that wealth? Yes. That's why you have certain families that ended up offing a good number of themselves and their family members through the paranoia of ever becoming poor. That's why the argument is always, it's not about race, it's the rich coming down on the poor. But even the poor were given land and stipends. Even the poor were given a 400-year head start. See, they don't want to talk about why the term white trash came about. Because they already knew about their privilege way back when. So if you were white and weren't successful, at least middle class, they considered you trash because everything was set up in your favor. How were you not succeeding? How were you not higher above the slaves? But as always, thank you for joining me. I will see you all Sunday night for part 2 with Royal Star. As always, each one teach one, each one reach one. Till Sunday, y'all.